Thanks to PIXIO for sponsoring this video. Hello everybody, welcome back to Beastcoast Pokemon. I am joined by my friends Rosemary, Aaron, and James, and today we're going to be talking about the most recent Louisville Regional Championships. Rose, how's it going?
It's good. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about the results. Congratulations to everybody for their performances at Louisville. Yay, Beast Coast.
Yay, Beast Coast.
You know what was funny? The first time I actually heard the name pronounced was late when Evan asked me, like, in an interview during the actual, like, regional, like, check-in. I had no idea how to pronounce it, by the way. And, like, I heard, like, 3 different pronunciations. I still have no idea which one's correct to this day.
I think I said Louisville.
There was a sign in the convention, I think it was in the convention center, where it had, like, 7 different pronunciation things, like spelled out, like Louisville, Louisville, like, and so my interpretation of this piece of art was that there is no one right way to say it. Now, maybe the people who are from Kentucky will feel otherwise and will let us know in the comments, but that's my current understanding.
Well, guys, how was the tournament? Wolf, James, I mean, you guys both played in it. Wolf, top 8 with Yamega. James, oh, man, I was watching your set at home. So close in that winning in the last round of day 2. But obviously, great performances from both of you, walking away with a lot of championship points. And so, yeah, how was the experience?
I don't know. For me, it was a last minute trip. I mentioned this on like Twitter and YouTube that I did not originally plan to go. I had signed up. I had flight booked. I didn't even have a hotel. So I ended up just rooming with some friends last minute. And I had no expectations going to the event. I did not like do any tournament prep at all. I was like, you know what? If I decide to go to LIC, since I do have it booked, I kind of want to see if I have like what it takes to still actually perform decently, or at least have some kind of like natural player instinct to where like I can do well at LIC if I decide to go. So I didn't want it to be my first tournament back. So decided, you know what, go to Louisville. Why not? I had a few things that I could do and also like a lot of friends that were going. So why not? And yeah, it ended up performing better than I expected, getting eliminated in the winning in on the last round of Swiss, which was the 11th round. And you know, it's always like that feeling of like, oh, I didn't have an expectation. But at the moment when it's like, oh, 1 game away from top cut, it's like, it always kind of stings, especially since I have like bombed a few of day 2s after a really strong day 1 start. So something I still want to like figure out, I think that I have to improve on.
What made you bring the team that you brought, James? I recognized, I mean, it was the team that won that European regional, right?
Oh, so literally my friends were using it. I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up. So that was literally the only reason. Shout outs to Z Fable and George Tifferman, my friends who decided to run the team with me. They did a like 1 change that was like Terra Poison Jab Garchomp over Dragon Claw. I kept Dragon Claw as the original set because I thought the team was a big Garchomp week, and I'm really glad I kept that change because Dragon Claw was superior to me and worked out really well at the event. But I was like, I could make some changes, but I mean, the creator really piloted well, and I bet the techs were basically what the team needed, and I thought the team was really strong. I was surprised I haven't seen it too much on like ladder whenever I was like recording YouTube videos. I feel like it's a very rare team, even though like it did win a regional championship, so was surprised to not see it too commonly at like events in general.
Yeah, I feel like people haven't really copied it and been bringing it to events or like used adaptations of it, which is surprising because it like, you know, was able to win a regional championship. So I'm curious where it fits in the meta, but, you know, seeming like you finished in top 64 with it, 1 game away from top cut. And so I think there's still a lot of strength on it. You know, speaking of unexpected Pokemon, Wolf, you ended up bringing Yamega to the tournament, of course, with some other fun Pokemon like the stalwart Electric Terra Archaludon. So yeah, what were you cooking this time?
Yeah, I think my team was really good, honestly. I really liked Yamega. I was looking for a Pokemon that could set Tailwind up, that was offensive, but that could also outspeed Dragapult. And Yamega actually is kind of the only Pokemon that can do that. Maybe there's like a Tailwind Pokemon, like Jumpluff outspeeds Dragapult, but isn't offensive enough. Maybe there's like some Swift Swim Pokemon I'm forgetting about that can do damage. But yeah, I was looking for something really fast, and I was really impressed with the Yamega. Flying typing is kind of hard to come by in the current format. It's really nice to hit Pokemon like Sneasler and Amoonguss for super effective damage, who are both very, very common. Air Slash is a broken move. Like 30% flinch chance is just ridiculous, like especially when Yamega outspeeds everything anyway. So like I would just go for Air Slash and be like, yeah, like maybe like I would Air Slash Goldango if I felt like it, you know, like I don't like maybe it'll flinch, and if you get the flinch, it feels so good. So Yamega was really good, and overall I really liked my team. It was cool to have a like Tailwind Trick Room hybrid. I think Ursaluna, Porygon 2, and Incineroar were both like interesting. They were all interesting Pokemon because they worked both in Trick Room and in Tailwind. So I was doing cool things with like the speeds throughout the tournament. And yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't win, but I'm really happy with my performance. I wanted to use this event to work on some of my like mentality and really spend the time kind of thinking about bigger picture stuff. And so I wasn't explicitly like my goal wasn't necessarily to win. It was to like really be very intentional about how I'm thinking about the game. And so I think I made some progress there. I think I learned a lot. And so I like, even if I hadn't made top cut, I think I still would have considered it a success. So the fact that I got a good result as well, that makes me happy.
Yeah, this tournament looked really hard. I don't know, like for both of you, being able to be so close to top cut and then Wolf for you to go as far as you did, I feel like that's just a testament to your skill, but also B, maybe just a testament to the team building for both of you, because I think that's where I'm finding a lot of the edge for players that I'm watching on broadcast is how much do you understand the matchup that's in front of you or your own team that can carve out that advantage like while you're playing the game. So I'm just interested for both of you, like what was the prep process like when we just had Dortmund, we just had results in LATAM, and you're coming into a new North America event where maybe it's a more wild west when it comes to some of the picks that you might see from people.
Well, I didn't prep. I wish I did. I wish I did because, for instance, the team we saw Paul and Agati have been using dominate this format. That was the first time I actually played that team, was on the stream match. So I felt like it was fine maneuvering technically. I do think the game was definitely winnable in both game 1 and game 3 without the RNG. The RNG ended up just screwing me over where like it just made it way too difficult, losing resources really quickly. But I feel like otherwise, like a lot of players were expecting the standard like Magmar team like that Michael Kelsch brought, and a lot of other players in Europe favored. I don't think there's that many. I think there's only like one in top 32 even. So I felt like even if I prepped a lot, I think it was just been like knowing how my team works, because I did feel like I had some sloppy play in day 1 and even day 2. There was like a little bit of plays that I could have made better if I had just understood the team a little bit more. So that's the only regret I really have. But overall, I feel like if I played a ladder, I don't think I would have probably had that matchup experience too much differently otherwise, because I think at this tournament I didn't really face super standard stuff. Maybe I saw some adjustments, but for the most part I think it was really diverse in what I faced, and there wasn't really anything on ladder that was like, oh, I'd execute this exact game plan. It'd probably just be like, oh, I understand like what my win condition is a bit better, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll echo what James said, because I prepped pretty well for this event. I had my team, I think the concept 3 weeks ish in advance. I had like the core 4 Pokemon pretty close to that as well. Like definitely before Dortmund, I think I was near finalized already. And so I like spent a lot of time practicing. I like played a bunch of ladder games. I like ran specific matchups. And despite all of that, being generous, like maybe fudging it a little bit, I only like in the tournament itself, only 1/3 of my matches were against things that I'd even like had a single set against. And that's like being a bit generous. Like some of the stuff is like, okay, I didn't play against this specifically, but I had played against something close enough that like I had a good game plan and it worked. Like Dondozo, like I had a Dondozo game plan, even though the specific Dondozo matchup was new, if that makes sense. And so I was really surprised because I was really expecting this tournament to be similar to Dortmund, where I think like almost half of the teams in top 16 had Magmar or Electabuzz. So like I really focused on that matchup, because dealing with Swords Dance, Dark Terra, King Gambit next to Fake Out, next to Follow Me, while also dealing with like Sneasler, Dragapult Threat, and Primarina, like that was actually a big inspiration for Yanmega and Arcaludon, because Yanmega was really good against Dragapult, and Sneasler, Arcaludon really good against the Follow Me Pokemon because it could ignore them, and it's good in Tailwind against Dragapult. Like I really practiced that matchup a lot and felt really confident in it. Didn't play a single one. Like didn't play a Magmar or an Electabuzz or even a Clefable the entire tournament. I played one Clefable, sorry. So meanwhile, I played Toxtricity. I played against Yanmega. I played against Drifblim, like all these weird Pokemon that I didn't have experience against. So I think this format is really, really, really wide. And I was looking at the top results, and like even the teams that were doing well, like at previous events, like there was barely any rain in Louisville's top cut. The only one was Riley, which it was like or at least in the top 8, I should say. And that was like more reminiscent of the rain teams that existed at the beginning of the format, like like that style. And then like the team that won in Dortmund, like of course a couple people used it, but it also wasn't present in top 8. I'm actually not even sure if it was present in top cut at all.
I
I
don't
do
think it
not
was.
believe so. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think James was
so-
the best performing player with that team.
Yeah, so basically, like I think that the format is really, really wide and really open, and it seems to be kind of like, I'm not even sure if developing is the right word, but hopping around really quickly. At least that's my impression.
Yeah, totally. I think even within top 8, I was surprised by a lot of the teams. Like, I think Joe finishing second with Jumpluff Typhlosion. Typhlosion, I feel like, was very good when this format was first introduced. And then a lot of people just started writing it off. They're like, oh, King Gambit's everywhere. Like, you have to worry about priority Sucker Punch. There's just so many things that Typhlosion struggles against. Rain being as common as it is also makes it tough. But Joe showed that it can still be really good. And, of course, using that signature Jumpluff that he's won regionals with before as well. I definitely wouldn't have predicted Executor and Hisu and Zorak to finish in top 4, so I think that was really cool. Parker Simmons bringing a really interesting team with Focus Sash, Psychic Terror, Expanding Force, Executor, and we got to see it dominate in one game on stream, which I thought was really cool as well. There was a Ceruledge in 5th place, Solo Dondozo in 6th place. We had Specs Dragapult in 7th place, so that was really cool because I think everyone's been using Choice Band Dragapult, but Specs Dragapult obviously gives you a little bit more coverage. You get access to Fire Blast in particular, so a really powerful fire type attack to threaten all the steel types that exist right now is really valuable. Wolfey obviously had that Mega in 8th place as well. So a lot of cool unique picks. And then there's a bunch of Kommo-o in top 16 as well. We talked about Kommo-o, I think, previously as well. And it's like, I feel like it's the Pokemon that's just like waiting to actually win an event, but it's actually had a lot of like top 16, top 32 performances. And so I'm curious to see where this Pokemon goes. This is one of the best formats for dragons, like, Garchomp, Dragonites everywhere. Speaking of Garchomp, it made the finals on both finalist teams again. Like, this Pokemon's just been everywhere in recent tournaments, despite other dragons existing as well. But yeah, we've got Garchomp, Dragapult, the Archaludon, the Dragonite. But yeah, Kommo-o, I think, is the sleeper dragon that I'm kind of curious about. But either way, definitely still a lot of like brand new Pokemon that I haven't seen up until now. And then there was a Charizard on a Trick Room team in top 32 as well, which I thought was really neat. And then a Pledges team, which Wolf, you actually fought against.
Yeah, it was my top 32 or like my top 16 qualifier round. I had to play against the Pledges, and Polion was pretty scary too because Yanmega can't do anything to it. But yeah, thankfully Sneasler just clicked close combat and went down. But yeah, it's scary to play against Pledge Threat because the mechanics are weird, and then also like they had Choice Band Dragapult, which is also like really hard to play against. So it was a scary team in my opinion.
Don't forget the Metagross with the
with
Terra
coaching, right?
Flyings. Yep. Solvest Metagross with 4 Terra Flyings on Andrew Nowak's team. So that was a very cool adjustment, especially as Magmar was obviously, we see Magmar in different sets paired with the King Gambit. Still, this one was running Fire Spin, which was interesting. I think we got to see it on stream where it was able to trap. And it's just really interesting seeing a mon that's like, okay, if you could Fire Spin like an Amoonguss, for instance, and then you just redirect it, it just can't do anything. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, that stream set was so interesting because I feel like we ended up seeing actually just in general in stream a lot of really unique Pokemon and strategies. And that was something I also wasn't expecting heading into the event. But we saw, I'm trying to remember where this was. Oh, it was on day 1 actually, where we saw Andrew Nowak versus Alberto Lara. So that was really cool. And then we got a chance to see Parker Simmons versus David Mancuso in the top 32. And I think that's where we ended up seeing the Executor really pop off. Yeah, Expanding Force from Psychic Terra Executor goes kind of hard. So that was a lot of damage. That was really great.
A lot of people don't know it's a base 125 special attack stat. It's actually really strong. It's just, 55 speed, something like that. So pretty slow, but I think modest max speed just barely outspeeds Dragapult with this chlorophyll. So very fast. We also saw some interesting takes. We saw like Kommo-o, as Aaron said, a Palafin, which was an interesting mon. Wolf shouted out during our Baltimore recap of how it could have potential. And we actually see 2 in the top cut, one of them even finishing in the top 16, which I thought was neat. There was the Pledge team, as we mentioned before. But yeah, otherwise, we saw a really interesting Dondozo take that was able to get 9th place. Was undefeated till getting eliminated in top cut. But yeah, the Dondozo, which I said in our Louisville preview after our Dortmund recap, I am not surprised that Terra Steel Heavy Slam was the Dundozo that did the most work. I thought players were disrespecting Dundozo a bit, but Dundozo with Terra Steel Heavy Slam, able to threaten so much damage to Amoonguss if you can catch it on the switch. Able to threaten Clefable, of course, which is probably one of Dundozo's biggest nemesis with the Unaware. So no surprise that Carson Coffer was able to pilot really well, especially with a lot of players not really focusing on the Dundozo matchup since it hasn't appeared previously. But yeah, and we even saw like the return of a core that Wolf is familiar with the Toedscruel plus the Galarian Weezing actually able to make it into the top cut, 26th place by Jackson, and was able to have a really strong showcasing there. And then Solo Hattering by Matt Tidd almost making it into the top cut, which I thought was interesting. No Psychic Terrain, which is very surprising.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting teams here, in my opinion. My round 1 of the tournament was against Toedscruel Weezing, and I was like, it was a little bit of whiplash. Yeah, I thought the Palafin, especially one of them was Choice Band, which I thought was really interesting because back in the day, it felt like we mostly saw Palafin with Mystic Water, like during Regulation C, I think it was, where Palafin, and B and C where Palafin was really popping off. It was mostly Mystic Water, so it was cool to see a Choice Band set pop up here, especially because it was able to use Flip Turn, whereas like I feel like a lot of Palafin, like I feel like game came out, people were like, oh, Palafin wants to switch out and it learns Flip Turn, we'll use this, and then people realized like, oh, it's like not doing any damage, then you make Palafin vulnerable, better just to switch it out regularly. So it was cool to see that it was actually able to make use of that, in my opinion.
Speaking of that Choice Band Palafin team, I just looked at it and I didn't realize what this Tyranitar set was because I faced like the same 6, but it was the Solvest Tyranitar. This one's Choice Scarf with Icy Wind.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. That was our 16th place. That's a crazy set.
And it's also interesting. We're just talking about Kommo-o. There are 2 in the top 16, but then 2 more in top cut as well. Right? Like it was on the Palmont, Weezing, Toedscruel team, and then it also finished in 24th place. So 4 Kommo-os out of the top cut teams, like I think is a pretty impressive stat. So even though it hasn't won an event, like Kommo-o actually won the Sacramento Regional Championships last year. Sacramento is coming up. It's one of the next big regionals, and so I wonder if that'll be where it finally gets to shine again. But either way, yeah, I just think it's really interesting because I don't think a lot of people have been talking about this Pokemon, but it's one like very quietly getting a lot of results and being used on a lot of different team compositions. Also, I was just scrolling through the day 2 teams and I saw a Cryogonal. What?
You like Cryogonal, right?
And a Glaceon. Yes, I like Glaceon. I don't like Cryogonal.
Man, that 2014, what was it, Virginia?
Yeah, I can't believe you guys remember that. That's so good.
It's funny because I've been researching that.
I think I remember it because I think I lost to Cryogonal in 2012 as well. I think we've both lost to Cryogonal in official tournaments.
It has Levitate. I honestly forgot it got Levitate, so that's kind of cool. Like you pair it with Garchomp, and then it has Protect, Haze, Freeze Dry, Icy Wind with Focus Sash. So
that's actually kind of heat.
Yeah.
What placement did it finish?
It was 7 and 4, so just outside of the 73rd place. Yeah.
I played against this person in the ladder a ton.
Oh wow.
I played against. I have like multiple replays against this person. They were pretty high up. And I was always so confused because the Tyranitar kept breaking the Cryogonal Sash. I was like, why is this on Tyranitar's team? Oh my god, that's so funny.
It's not a bad. Doesn't have like bad stats either though. Like it's got pretty high special defense. Its speed's like 105.
It's just that it's so physically frail. But you're right with the Focus Sash. Who cares?
Yeah, it's kind of beefy. I don't know. It also has a lot of ice coverage that I feel like is really important for a lot of teams. Like I think we saw Freeze Dry be really important on stream. Where if you can force out like the Water Tear or something on the Annihilate, then Freeze Dry comes in from the Ninetales and can just absolutely wreck it. So, you know, if you don't want Alola Ninetales, I guess why not just have Cryogonal?
Wait, why are they using Cryogonal over... Oh, Haze, probably.
Haze and Levitate Earthquake is pretty strong.
Right, and they also had Tyranitar on the team, so they didn't want to take away the sand. Yeah, okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, I was just like, I did not expect to see that, but that actually, it makes sense, so I'm very curious about it. And then there was also a Blastoise that finished in 64th. I don't think I've ever seen a pledge move being used on a team without other pledges, but this Blastoise had Water Pledge just for a single target Water type attack.
But what No Scald does to a turtle?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Yep, No Scald. Also, what's interesting about Pledge is if you face a Gastrodon, Water Pledge, if I'm not mistaken, does ignore the Storm Drain redirection.
Does it actually?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it does, which is really weird.
I would maybe believe it when it's combined, but I'd be really surprised if it worked just as like when it was just naked Water Pledge.
I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure I've done it before
I believe you. I've never done it, so I believe you.
I
That's a
don't
weird
blame you
mechanic.
because I was very skeptical when I first heard about it, and then I think I tried it and then it worked. If I'm not mistaken, maybe someone can correct me in the comments if I am wrong.
This,
about
this is
that
why
in the
Pokemon's such
podcast,
a
but-
crazy game. Like, there's so many crazy mechanics that it's like, oh, like, yeah, I had never even heard of that before. That's crazy.
You know what I learned before my top 32 match against the Pledges team? The Pledges always get stabbed, even if they're like, I always thought that like if like they only got stabbed if the second Pokemon matched the type of the move, but the move always gets stabbed.
I didn't know that.
It would have been interesting if they had Sneasler on the Pledge team for the 100% Dire Claw interaction with Fire Pledge, Water Pledge.
Wait, oh my god, that's so good. You like Blaziken and Empoleon, you like pick up a KO, and then you send in Sneasler and just always Dire Claw.
And you always get the 100%.
That's nuts.
I'm just laughing because while you guys are talking about Sneasler, I'm like looking at the top 16 results, and like the way Victory Road has it organized, it's like Sneasler's always in the same slot. So it's like Sneasler, blank, Sneasler, blank, Sneasler, Sneasler, blank, Sneasler, 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 blank, blank, Sneasler. It's like over half the teams. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Sneaslers in top 16.
It was day 1. It was top of the usage charts in day 1 and day 2. Yeah, in day 2, it hit 45.9%.
Oh my gosh.
That's Fluttermane levels of usage in a tournament.
The newer Shifu, baby.
Yeah.
Primarina, by the way, being 31% usage in day 1 and overtaking Incineroar is wild.
I don't think Primarina's all that.
I don't like
actually
it.
agree with Wolf. Every time I have played a Primarina or used it, its damage output, other than from Moonblast, has been very disappointing.
I think we had Luca, our world champion, say like Primarina on Fraud Watch because even though its usage rate was so high, like it didn't even dent top cut really, right? Like was there maybe one in top 32?
David Mancuso was the Primarina like Magmar balance stuff.
Right, yeah.
And then I think that was the only Primarina in
I
the
don't
top.
think we even see him. I didn't think we saw him use it at all in his match either.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess the Sun team, it's a pretty hard ass to bring.
Well, yeah, but
Primarina.
still.
I'm glad you brought up the team comp though, because like, you know, coming out of Dortmund, it felt like it was like a very solidified team, like Magmar over Electabuzz, and then like, you know, Primarina is the water type user, but we saw 2 different versions of this in top 8, and then with Colin higher and carry Dortona. And I think like both of these are like slightly newer takes, right? You had Volcarona being used on both variants. You had Dondozo, solo Dondozo on Colin's team. You had the Mirror Herb Paldean Tauros on Carrie's team. And so, yeah, I think like there's still a lot of room for adaptations with these comps. And then like with Volcarona in particular, both of them using Covert Cloak Quiver Dance, but different Terra types. And then like Colin had Fairy Terra Blast, whereas Carrie had the Giga Drain with Dragon Terra. And then obviously Rillaboom, you can set up Grassy Terrain to do even more damage with Giga Drain. And then a Carrie running the special Dragapult as well. So it's cool to see like even this like kind of solidified team composition is still being modified pretty significantly. And we were talking about the lack of Primarina. Well, both of these dropped their water types, switched Primarina, which is normally on these comps for Dondozo and Paldean Tauros.
I think it's just interesting. We like in this regulation, weather has become more popular than ever. I think this tournament kind of established that. We had Sun getting second place. Ninetales missed the top 8, but there were multiple Ninetales in Top Cut in general. We had Rain also in the top 4, and then we also have Tyranitar. There's actually a few Tyranitars, and then there's Tyranitar Excadrill throughout day 2. So I think it's really interesting to see, especially with, I think, the highest usage. Would you have ever expected like Ninetales to be the snow setter, like one of the premier ones? I don't know if Pelipper or Ninetales has probably had the most usage in this tournament, but I think it's just interesting the fact that because of so many dragons, as Aaron mentioned at the beginning, where Ninetales being faster than Garchomp, pressuring the Dragonites, even the Terra Flying sets. Fairy is just such a good, strong coverage option in general, and Specs Moonblast actually does hurt. I think it's pretty insane, like how well that Ninetales is positioned in this format currently.
Ninetales had higher usage than Pelipper in day 2.
I'm not surprised.
I think being faster helps. Also, like the snow being an anti-weather in a sense, like it's not as good versus like in a direct matchup as sand or sun against rain, I think, but maybe it's better than stand against rain. It's just the Tyranitar feels bulkier, so it's easier to switch in. But the fact that like it's so fast and like Blizzard's also just a crazy move. Like you hit both Pokemon, you do good damage to them, and you have a chance to freeze either one. And like freeze can just swing the game so much. And because of the snow, you're harder to get rid of on the physical side. I think it's just like it's actually like a pretty even though the stats actually aren't that good, especially the special attack stat, it's just it has so much going for it that it's understandable how it's so strong. Also, Aurora Veil is broken. Like, that is not a balanced move, in my opinion.
But I feel like most of them aren't even running Aurora Veil. Like, most of them are actually on the offensive side, where they're running like Blizzard and Freeze Dry, Moonblast +1.
Where do things go from now? You know, the winning team is not a new team that we've seen. We saw it got second place at the Dortmund Regional Championships. It seems like a lot of players now are dropping the Ursaluna for the Garchomp. You know, I look at Chris Hahn, who got, I think, was top 8 or top 16 at Baltimore Regionals, is one of the Flamigo Ursaluna users, and he brought the Garchomp and Sneasler into this tournament. So, like, I'm curious where you guys think the meta will go in the subsequent events, and, you know, what to expect after this big tournament.
Yeah, so we have an EU regional. I forgot if it's this weekend.
It's this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend while we're currently recording.
There's so many events.
There's so many events, but I would not be surprised. The team that ended up winning this event was the team that got second place at Dortmund. It was the same 6 as Maddie Moo, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just a very good, solid. I think I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes the New Balance team, because Porygon 2, Amoonguss, and Incineroar are just really bulky. Has a lot of options. Trick Room is a great speed control. Garchomp, very impressive with coaching Sneasler. The Golden Go, just able to do a lot with Incineroar Amoonguss combination. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this takes over the New Balance. Or maybe we'll see more of the Magmar Electabuzz team being brought back as players might continue to use what they've been using. But as I think I mentioned before, this format has a lot of diversity, but I do think we'll probably see a lot of the same cores until someone builds something better. And it'll be through slight adjustments, like we saw, like with the Primarina, like you mentioned before, being replaced with like maybe Dundozo or the Tauros, or maybe we'll see a New Balance team rise up. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I think Europe is just going to play standard. Outside of like Jack Clark, who was the only person that stood out in that top cut, I felt like everything else was like expected. Yeah, this is normal. This is a perfectly well-balanced, well-rounded team. There's nothing out of place here. So I think it's going to be more of that in Europe.
I kind of feel like Pandora's box is open a little bit. Like, now that there's too many compositions, it's harder to feel like a standard team can cover for them all, because Europe has very capable and creative builders. I think just maybe that players going into Dortmund favored something that felt a little more consistent. But my theory is that we're past the point of feeling like a standard team can cover for everything or have good matchups into everything, especially with these weird Pokemon like Executor or Yanmega or like Yanma even, right, popping up here and there. And the more of these Pokemon that have really strong matchups against the standard compositions, the more scary it is to run those standard compositions. The Dondozo stuff too, like with Terra Steel. So my theory is that the Lille top cut is going to look very different than the Louisville top cut.
I like it. I think that about wraps it up from us here. Let us know what teams, what Pokemon you think are still underrated, what you think will win in the upcoming tournaments, and where you think the meta will go down in the comment section below. On behalf of myself, Rosemary, Wolf, and James, and the entire Beastcoast team, thanks again for joining us. Thanks to PIXIO for sponsoring today's video, and we'll catch you all next time.